surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath. When you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping in the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath. When they pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. I am glad you are all here this evening. We're going to start the show on a sad note, unfortunately. Meriden legend Joan Joyce passed away today, actually yesterday. If anyone who does not know who she was a Florida Atlantic softball coach. She was Meriden's own. She also, I did not know this, and Sue Nemechek actually made me aware of her passing, and she is the only woman who struck out Ted Williams. Of course, if you're a Red Sox fan, you know who he is. But it is with a heavy heart that she has passed. So I wish my condolences go out to her and her family and all the friends. And she is the reason why Falcon Field is in existence today. So again, my condolences go out to her family. You know, we should never forget our past and those who carried the torch and has handed it off to us. And it is our job to make sure that we keep moving this city forward in a positive direction on behalf of people like Joan, who gave all to the city of Meriden, and she really cared a great deal about this city. And again, my condolences go out to her family. We have a lot to talk about. But at first, let's get through we have to get through our normal stuff. So I am Joe Vollano. I am your host, your guiding light through all this craziness that's going on. And it's getting crazier and crazier. I mean, we talked about, we got a lot to talk about, especially between Joe Biden and the Ukraine catastrophe that's going on over there. And he didn't help the cause at all with his trip out there to Poland. We'll talk about that. And of course, like I said, you know, this show only works best when you guys are all involved. So if you want to call in, 203-679-9610. I'm always more than happy to take your calls. Or if you want to email us, straighttalkjv@gmail.com. you're always more than welcome to send us an email. Or, of course, if you're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube, you could jump on to the message board and you can message there. I see them all coming through on my screen. Looks like you guys are active already. But like I said, we have a lot to talk about. We have national issues to talk about. We have state issues to talk about. We have local issues to talk about. So we got a lot going on. But like I said, we started the show with Biden's little gaffed. Now, it's funny because after Joe Biden spoke for about a half hour a couple days ago, and I got so many calls. See how tough Joe Biden was on Putin? Did you see it? Did you see what he said? And I turned around and I told these exact same people, I was like, okay, yeah, sure. If you believe that. And sure the hell not. As soon as he said that he was that Putin was a butcher and that he can't remain in power, everyone was like, oh my God, he's finally going to do it. And I was like, no, it's not. And sure enough, they walked it back. And I don't know. Now, first of all, I don't know how you could walk back those comments. Because he said very clearly, come on, man. He can't remain in power. You know Joe Biden. Joe Biden, the good old boy, he's down to earth. Good hard worker. Come on, man. I love when he says that. Whenever he says, come on, man, you know he is off script. He is off script and you don't know what the hell is going to follow next. He says, come on, man. He can't remain in power. Which now anyone who listens to that or reads that immediately thinks regime change. If he can't remain in power, somebody's got to take his place. And they immediately walked that back. But before they were able to walk that back, the French, of all people, the French were the first to criticize. Because believe it or not, and I don't know if I should be, I'm kind of embarrassed by saying this. The French are taking the lead in diplomacy talks between Russia and Ukraine. Them and Turkey. Can you believe that? When has anyone ever heard that? America always used to be the calming voice in this world. The one who used to take the lead and say, hey, let's knock this stuff off. Let's all come to the table and discuss what's going on, and let's come to a solution. The world doesn't even trust Joe Biden to do that anymore, or anyone in his administration. They do not trust him. So they have the French doing it. They have Turkey doing it. That is a horrible optic for America. Is that we are taking a back seat in peace talks. And hell, we're the home of the United Nations. It is quite embarrassing. And the French president was pissed. He says his main goal is to achieve a ceasefire and then total withdrawal. Of course, wishful thinking, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. But as he's sitting there doing that, Ukraine continuously for day 33 now, getting barraged with a bunch of bombs, destroying that country city by city. But for God's sakes, man, this man can't remain in power. Now, again, while I agree with Joe Biden, and I think many people did, like I said, I had plenty of Republicans and conservatives telling me, did you hear it? Did you hear it? That's not the liberals of today. That's not the liberals of today. If we were talking 30, 40, 50 years ago, I would be like, okay, yeah, he probably means it. I knew damn well he didn't mean it. And the White House was very quick to walk back those comments. And these are some of the things they were saying. So he was saying that he was not calling for a regime change in Russia, but rather was preparing the world's democracies for an extended conflict and making the point that Putin cannot be allowed to exercise power over his neighbors or the region. Come on, man. He can't remain in power. Really means they're not going for regime change, but rather preparing the world's democracies for an extended conflict. Come on. Or as Joe Biden would say, come on, man. You really believe that BS? I'm not buying it. Not buying it for a second. And again, all of his lackeys, one after another, got on national TV, trying to throw cover for the guy. Listen, he's just like Obama. He is just like Obama. You take him off prompter and forget it. Forget it. All bets are off. All bets. Someone got sick of me throwing all my papers on the ground here. They put a little bin here. so I don't throw all my papers, although I just went to go throw it on the ground. And there it was. But I apologize for my sniffles and my erratic cough every once in a while. For some reason, I just can't seem to get my sinuses to clear out the last couple days. So I just took some medicine just before we got on, hoping that it would kick in and it would last me for the hour. So we'll see what happens. But again, I apologize for it. But yeah, listen, look, Ukraine still looking for airplanes. They still haven't gotten them yet. And Ukraine president's getting pretty pissed off. Just get them there. Stop talking about who and how, and just get them there. Because while they're waiting for those planes, they're starting to lose the air war. So let's take care of that. Take one of those free COVID tests. No. So, I'm sure we're going to be talking about this again because like Joe Biden's White House said, he's just preparing us. He's preparing us for an extended war. So what would a Trump, that's an interesting comment, Craig. Better being a Biden lackey than a Trump lackey like you. That's an interesting comment because what does a Trump lackey mean? I love it. If you could elaborate on that, I love to comment on it. Because is it better being a Biden lackey than a Trump lackey? Even though I'm not a Trump lackey because I don't agree with a lot of things he does, but his policies, damn straight, I believe in those. So if you could elaborate on that comment, that'd be awesome, and we could bring that one back up later on. So easier said than done, regardless of plane. No, again, if you give them the planes, they'll be able to do it. Now, I don't know how that makes you a Trump lackey or a Biden lackey. I don't know how that fits in either way. So now I just think you're just trying to grasp at straws now that you've been called out on it. Interesting. Okay, we're going to move on. So we'll go to this little city politics before we jump to some state politics. Obviously, I've always complained about the ethics violations that most liberals in this city do on a daily basis, whether it was Brian Daniels with the unions and the labor agreement, PLA, or whether or not it's the conflict that his dad was a union president, or whether or not it was Castro with his talking about with his little going behind people's backs with putting himself on boards down in New Haven, or whether or not him interfering with videos of city council meetings, whether it was LaRue Graham with being on the same board we were about to speak of that puts grants out and actually supplies grants out to his own organization. One that now Crystal Blake is part of and she's chairwoman of. And now an ethics complaint has been brought up against her. And I got to tell you, I got to tell you, so coming to be one of my new favorite people in this entire city is Colleen Sear. Colleen Sear, if you don't remember, Colleen called into the show. Maybe, God, it had to been a while ago. Had to been a while ago since she's called in. Maybe she'll call in again because I tell you what, she is starting to be one of my favorite people. Favorite people. Because she is on top of this stuff. And when she sees it, she's immediately comes out. Yeah, there is, believe it or not, an ethics board. They don't really do much. But if anyone remembers, we talked about this when Crystal Blake joined the Boys and Girls Club as assistant executive director. We talked about, well, how can she be on this board and chair this board when she is going to appropriate funds from the CDBG funds to different organizations? We complained about this with Lou Graham, and then we complained about it with her. And the point is, and back in 2021, she sought an opinion from the Board of Ethics after she took that position as assistant executive director. And this was the ruling. This was the ruling that they gave. The board issued a ruling that now make sure you read this. You listen to this. The board issued a ruling that Blake should neither preside over discussions nor vote on matters which directly involve her employer. The board issued a ruling that Blake should neither preside or over discussions nor on matters that directly involve her employer. Well, just 10 days ago, on March 16th, Blake presided over a meeting of a presentation from the Boys and Girls Club. And it was for a grant. She presided over that meeting in direct violation of an ethics ruling. Now, first question I have is, as a council person, as chair of a council, why would you call a meeting, or why would you preside over the meeting knowing that Boys and Girls Club are going to present a grant application? Even if you're not voting on it, you know the rules that you're not supposed to preside over it. So why, in God's name, would you turn around and even bring that forward? That's the first mistake. The second mistake comes in that the hearing opened with 3 of the 5 Human Services Committee members present, which is barely constituting a quorum. It was Blake, Rhodey, Orlett. Coming to the meeting, Rhodey left. A half hour into the meeting, Rhodey left because he had another meeting. And then 51 minutes into the meeting, Orlett left because he obviously had another meeting or another obligation to do. So why that meeting would continue on with only one person doesn't matter whether or not you're voting on anything. You have lost a quorum. It should have stopped. Now, corporate counsel is going to say, no, they can still do it because they're not voting on anything. But none of them are present to listen to the argument or the presentations. So why would she find it in her best interest to continue the meeting? And first of all, why would you schedule a meeting when you know that you're only going to have 3 people there and 2 of them have other meetings to go to? Why would you even schedule it? These are the type of questions that people should be asking. And we're going to get in later on in the show. We're going to talk about a thread that I really, really found interesting today on Meriden Talks. I don't usually go on Meriden Talks very often or onto social media as far as the groups anymore. But a real great question was asked, and I always love hearing people's opinions on Meriden in general. So this kind of feeds into that, is that why aren't these questions being asked of the people with power? If you can't have the people there, why schedule the meeting? It's because that meeting went on for an hour and 40 minutes longer after Rayer left, 51 minutes into the meeting, left. So now you know that meeting is going to last, what, two and a half, almost 3 hours. And for half the meeting, more than half the meeting, you were the only one there. That's a problem. See, and I think, Don, sadly, you've hit it on the head. And again, for some of the comments in the thread we're going to talk about later on, I think other people are feeling the same way there, Don. People just seem not to care. People have seemed to give it up. You know, people ask me all the time, Joe, why do you do it? You know, why do you do things that you do? Whether it's politics, whether it's this, whether it's that. If you know no one's going to care, and you know you may not win, why do you do it? And I always tell them the same thing, because winners never quit. Winners never quit. If you believe if what you're doing is true and just, you never, ever quit. Even if you're the last person standing there, screaming from the top of the mountain, and sometimes I feel like I am. Winners never quit. And quitters never win. That's my philosophy, not only on this, on life. I never quit. No matter what. It's easy to turn around and say, I'm done. I'm sick of it. But there's one thing guaranteed if you quit, and that's it. That is, you lose. If you keep fighting, keep doing what's right, there's a chance you're going to win. That's why we do what we do. That's why I do this show. That's why I do a lot of the things I do. Because I have faith in the people out there. Quitting an MRTC, I love you, Scott. You're so caught up on it. You were so in your own head. I don't know why I live so rent-free in that head of yours. But quitting the MRTC is not quitting. I left the MRTC because of this show. And again, you've listened to me say that over and over again, but you love to keep bringing that up because you have absolutely nothing to talk about. So you love to bring that up. Leaving an MRTC does not mean that you quit. Doesn't. So this show is more important to me than the MRTC. I think that's the point you miss to understand. But you'll never understand that because you don't have that mentality to understand that. But that's on you, not on me. I care about the people of this city, this state, and this country. And I will never quit on them. So, and the great thing I loved about this whole thing is that everybody came to her defense, especially Luru Graham, which I found really interesting because he said he had no issue with Blake chairing the committee. Graham is the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club, and he sought a similar advisory opinion prior to Blake's request. There was no issue with her chairing, even though they did say that she is not to preside over him. That's exactly what she did. So I love how they're circling the wagons. They're going to try to make this thing go away. And of course, if the ethics board does anything like it's done in the past, they'll brush this under the rug and they won't really care. They won't really care. So it's very interesting to me. But that leads us right into our finance report for in case anyone missed the meeting. I missed part of it, but I got really interested when Sean started messaging me all the different templates of what they were talking about. And of course, I asked him if it was still going on. And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, I'm running on down there. But because I love budget time. So the final numbers came out for obviously the grant list and what's going on. And Kevin McNamble to put the everything out on slides. And the average property value in the house jumped from $175,000 to $228,000. So, and that came to a roughly about, I believe he said, a 24% increase. And under the current tax, that home would be assessed at $122,000, would have a tax bill of $5,005. The same one this year would be $5,268. Excuse me. And of course, that is the revised assessment of $160,195. Listen, at the end of the day, most of us are going to see tax increases. Most of us are going to see tax increases here. Whether or not it's as extreme as we think it's going to be, it all depends on what they add into this budget, which is why everybody needs to be paying attention. This budget is extremely important because this is really going to, the way the people react to this budget, which again, I think we'll get into in the thread, because that thread hits on so many different things. It was great. It's going to come down to how the public reacts to, one, the increasing of salaries, as far as wanting the new assistant city manager, whether it's not another person in the assessment office. It's going to be very interesting to see where everybody falls on this, because again, I believe it's really split when it comes down to this assistant city manager. And I know Kevin has been like on top of really trying to say there's no need for this. And really, when we sit there and start talking about adding an assistant city manager, I think you need to start talking about a strong mayor. Because everything they're looking to do and everything that's going on right now, and we're going to get to that, Mike. So everything that's going on now is what a strong mayor would do. If you read the article in the Record Journal, Kevin Scarpati has even pointed it out. I am doing a lot of your work for you that you would normally have to do as far as public appearances and stuff like that. So if they want an assistant city manager to do it, then let's go to what most of the other towns and cities do and have a strong mayor. Now, when you have a strong mayor, you still have a city manager. You have a city manager that answers directly to the mayor. And I think if anybody gets anything out of what they're trying to do here, they're literally painting a picture of a strong mayor for you. That's what needs to happen. Now, why won't the left here in the city, the Democrats, well, not all the Democrats, I think some Democrats would, I'm going to say the far left liberals on the city council, why don't they want a strong mayor? So let me break it down for you, why they don't. One, they lose their fall guy. The RJ, when it comes down, and most people on social media and everything else, fawn over the mayor's race. They fawn over it. They just love it. They think it's the greatest thing. Because most people don't understand the way this government works here in the city. Excuse me. Oh, my God. So the city council does not want to lose their fall guy. The mayor is always the one they first go to when something goes wrong, and then the last ones they go to when something goes right. And the council uses the mayor as a shield against them for things that they do wrong. Because most people go straight to the mayor's office. That's number one. Number two, the easiest way to effectively make change in this city would be to change the mayor. The mayor runs every 2 years instead of every 4 years like city council. In order to change the city council, you look at pretty much a minimum, realistically, a minimum of 8 to 12 years. A lot of damage is done in 8 to 12 years. Hell, a lot of damage is done in 30 years that they've had power here in this city. But somehow still try to blame us, the resistance, for those issues. And somehow they succeed in tricking a lot of people in this city. I don't know how. They will complain about all these things that are wrong in the city, but yet they've held power in the city for 30-something years. And somehow it's our fault. The naysayers, the resistance, the just no people, which we're not just no people. It's absolutely ridiculous. So they will never, ever want to see that charter revised to be a strong mayor. Now, can we do it as a public? We can. It's an awful lot of work. Awful lot of work. That petition would be awfully big. But can we do it? Sure we could. The easier way would be for the city council to do it upon themselves. If you could get 2/3 of the city council to approve it, then they can make those changes. Obviously, with the makeup of the council now, unless a lot of Democrats want to write their city councilors and say, we want to change, there is no way in hell this leadership would turn around and voluntarily give up that kind of power. It would be very, very interesting. Very interesting to see how that would play out. And maybe it is something that we're going to end up having to do. I would say this. If there's not solid change come next November, because this November is state races, federal races. Next year, you have a lot of Democrats that are, really all Democrats that are up, other than one. Mike Carabetta would be the only, Councilman Carabetta out of 4, out of Area 4, will be the only one on the Republican side that's up. So if you can't make change then, I think as far as the public and the citizens are concerned, I think the only option you have left is to petition it. And even that's not a guarantee. But yeah, we've seen a petition go forward, and we've seen it get bipartisan support. But we're going to see how that plays out next year. Because I think if you need to have an assistant city manager, it should be the mayor. And if the mayor is already doing half of your work anyways, you just made the case for a strong mayor position. Bottom line. So, again, just one more thing. We're going to see how this plays out. And yeah, 7-5. Yeah. So I definitely think I would love to see it. Dan, I want to see you as majority leader. There will be a day. There will be a day. Listen, and a lot of, I guess, liberals are going to automatically bring Abe Grossman in. He was erratic. He was this. He was that. This and that. Listen, there's protocols in place. Doesn't mean you change the entire system. Doesn't mean you change the entire system. But Democrats had the power, so they did it. And remember, once you open a charter, it's open for everything. You can't just open it for one section. The whole thing would be able to be amended. So just keep that in mind. So, but that's why there's checks and balances in this government. That's why government has checks and balances in case you have one that goes off the deep end. That's why there's checks and balances in government. And I think at some point we need to change back and we need to have a strong mayor. I said that 6 years ago. I'll say it now. And term limits. I'm all for term limits. I love term limits. So, be very interesting to see how that plays out. But I think Bruce Fontanella and Kevin also made a very good point on the tax assessor's office. And again, I've been one to kind of defend Melinda over in the tax assessor's office because I believe what she was doing is definitely within the law. And I always said the one thing she does need to work on is definitely her friggin' customer service skills. And I caught a glimpse of that a couple days ago on a phone call. But of course, she also doesn't know that side of me either, that, she quickly found out. But I think definitely, I like to make the tax assessor's office more taxpayer friendly. And that's a quote from Mr. Fontanella. I get more calls from taxpayers complaining about the assessor's office being rude, unfriendly, and demeaning. That can't happen in a city department. We have to have good relationships with our taxpayers, and a change in that attitude comes out of this, and a change of attitude comes out of that city assessor's office. And I love Kevin's even better. Absolutely not, in regards to a new deputy tax assessor. More staff is not the answer. A shift in culture is what's needed. A larger focus on customer service and a more welcoming environment. Amen to both of those. You can have as many people in there as you want. But if you're going to be rude to your customers, which are your taxpayers, what's the point? And I couldn't help but notice during that exchange that our city manager was smirking about it. As if he didn't freaking care. Because remember, here's another issue when I talk about a strong mayor. That city manager, Tim Coons, he doesn't care what you think. He's doing the bidding of the city council majority. He is doing the bidding of Sonia Jelks. And we all know how much she don't care about the taxpayer or a majority of the people here. Which, again, falls into the thread we're going to talk about on Meriden Talks. There's no accountability over there. Because at the end of the day, he don't care. You can't fire him. He's appointed by the city council. Again, if you had a strong mayor, the city manager would fall directly under the mayor. And the mayor be able to remove him if necessary. Just one more. One more in pro pro-strong mayor category. That's why you don't see change in this city. That's why you don't see accountability in this city. Because no one's held accountable. And because the people are minimized in this process. By having the council and not a strong mayor. Sure, but it could also create it the other way. Listen, there's always going to be pros and cons. So the minority leader said it's a popularity contest. It's a popularity contest now. Name recognition can produce an ultra-liberal nightmare. And for those of you who don't see it, he's on Facebook. If you don't see it on the other, platform, that's what he said. And that's absolutely the case. It can produce an ultra-liberal nightmare. But at the same time, it could cause the opposite. It could cause an ultra-conservative. So again, but it's easier to change a mayor in 2 years than it is to change a whole council, majority in a whole council, and realistically 8 to 12. And I think that's where we have to wrestle with what's in the best interest of the city and the residents. So no system's ever going to be perfect. But which one do the people have the most say in? And if that is the case, a strong mayor is the only answer. A strong mayor is the only answer. Because look at what we have now. Sonia Jelks, the craziest one out of all of them, is the majority leader, elected by 960 votes. Dan, you were elected to office with over 3,000 votes. But the craziness is what runs this city. And when we talk about the perception of the city of Meriden, as majority leader, she gets to put out that perception. And we've seen what she's done with that power. And I, as a resident of the 3rd district, as a constituent of you, Dan, I don't get a say on whether or not Sonia Jelks gets to stay in office or not. But yet, she is the voice for me because she is majority leader of the city council. And when we talk about the perception of Meriden, how do we change that? It's by getting people like her out of office and stop letting her sit there and put the perception out that our police are bad, that our police have a brutality problem, that our city is racist, and we have racism problems all over the city. How do we change the perception of Meriden? It's by taking those out of the equation that give us that reputation or give that perception to other people. Because it was an interesting thread that Sean McDonald put up there on Meriden Talks today. And I'm reading through them. I'm reading through the comments because that's the type of thread I love. Because it gets people engaged and sit there and put their ideas out there. And of course it's Meriden Talks, so you had your nonsense going on there. But there were a couple I want to talk about. Because there were a couple that people that put out there and really thought about it. And really put down into words on what they want to see happen. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, if the people that are leading the city are the ones that are actually pushing the false narratives and the bad and putting those bad perceptions out there of Meriden, how can you ever expect, as a little person, as they would call us, how would you ever be able to change that? It's damn near impossible. It's damn near impossible. That's why they hate shows like this. Do you know last week's show has almost 5,000 views on it? The one before that was like 4,700. People are starting to wake up. I think people are starting to get more engaged in what the hell is going on because they don't like it. I think that thread today, and let me read it. I'm curious to hear how you as a taxpayer, and I would scratch taxpayer. I would scratch taxpayer and say, you as a citizen of our great city of Meriden, how do we change the perception of Meriden? As a citizen, forget the taxpayer. Nothing's impossible. Pat, it's a horrible, again, hate to call you on that. That's a horrible comment. Nothing is impossible. When you think that way, they win. They win. But I want to read some of these because some of these are really, really interesting. Of course, obviously the potholes, always a big thing, which is absolutely true. I think potholes need to definitely, if you have good roads and they're easy to travel upon, I think that's always good. Now, for me, when I moved to the city back in 2007, to me, when Erin and I decided to move to Meriden, because she had a job up here, I got a job up here, I said, well, I don't want to move to Meriden. It has a lot of crime. And then I got up here. And we were living here, and I'm like, where's all this crime? We lived in Woodley Court in the old schoolhouse there. And I got to tell you, it was quiet. Even for a main road, it was very quiet. There was no crime. There was nothing I had to worry about. So for me, my perception coming into the city was that I'm going to deal with a lot of crime. The reality of it was that wasn't the case. That the police department was doing a great job. Now, we've come a long way since 2007. Now, if you listen to what our political leaders are saying today, our police are the enemy. Our police are the devil. Which isn't the case. Which just isn't accurate. But again, how do you change that perception when those that are leading the city? How can you change the perception when the leaders of the city are the ones that are telling you that we have a police brutality problem? How can you change that perception to minorities in the city when they're saying that the police are a leading cause of black deaths in America, which is just a freaking ridiculous statement on his face? How can you change a perception when that's what's coming out of City Hall? And they're proud of it. They're proud of what they're saying and what they're doing. So again, someone said here, well, you gotta be part of the process. So I want to make sure I read it word for word because I loved this comment and then I'll get into the other one that I found quite interesting. Where did I see? I tried highlighting all of them so that I had them ready to go. Everyone vote all. Yeah, well, you can vote everybody out, but you can't. Like I said, you got another 8 to 12 years before you can do all that. Is this the one I am looking for? No, that wasn't the one. See, now I'm not going to be able to find it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It always happens like that. But basically, I'll just do a synopsis of it. Basically, it was, you got to go out and vote. And you got to start asking questions again. You have to start asking questions again. I wish I could find it. Now it's going to irritate me because I can't find it. And it was an absolutely great one. But Hector also had a good one. And I'm going to read it. I love this city and most of its residents I've met. I've always believed that love changes everything. I try to do my part and keep our home and yard clean. I look to help others when needed. So I help others whenever I see a need and I can afford to. It should never be about me. I believe our beloved President John F. Kennedy said it best. He mentioned our country, but I say, what can we do for this city? What can we do for this city? And not what can this city do for me? Be kind to everyone you meet. Help your neighbors whenever you can. Spread love and opportunity. It costs absolutely nothing to love. And when it is given, it will be received. This is a very good city with very good and some very great residents. Change starts within. So Meredites, let's do that. Let's go. May love be our rallying cry. If that is not so well said, I absolutely love it, Hector. That is 110% accurate. When you start trying to get rid of the negatives and start focusing on the positives, that's when positive things happen. That's not only in for our city, but that's in life in general. And Hector, well said. I really wish I could find this other one. Gary Yale had a decent one in there. He was saying, let's take all of our city leaders and throw them in other towns. Listen, you have to understand. You have to understand the liberal and understand why that wouldn't work. Gary, while it's great in theory, it'll never work because that's not their mindset. That's not their mindset. They don't care about business. They hate business. They hate business because corporations are greedy, but they love the people when really they love people they can control. And the people they can control are the people that vote for them. And the people that vote for them, again, and people can sit there and say this any way they want, it's statistically true. People that vote for them are mostly the lower income people. That's just a fact. You look at any of these races here in the city. Why is that the case? I don't know. But again, it's about control. So if you are dependent on them, if they are dependent on them, then they dictate what they can and cannot have, which means people need to vote for them because they're going to make them the victim and us the enemy. They do it every year. They love playing identity politics. They love this class warfare. It's not it's not the have-nots issue. It's not your fault. You're just the victim. You're the victim of here, here, and here. This person, this person, this person, or this group, this group, this group. God, if they got out of that victimization mentality, their whole world would change. The whole world would change for them. But most people like to live in that. They're comfortable living there. Therefore, Democrats, only thing they care about is more subsidized housing. More subsidized housing so they can get more voters. They can have more control. That's what this is always about. It's very strange. So, again, to change the perception of what's going on, one does start with us doing what we can. But like I said, when you have this issue starting at the very top, when they should be the ones promoting the city and saying all the great positives of the city, it is what it is. All we can do is keep working. All we can do is sit here and join here together. So, Daffodil Festival. Not that we're going to change gears here. Actually, you know what? Before we do Daffodil Festival, we got a couple. I want to make sure I get this in. So obviously, Connecticut is joining with 3 other states, and they are doing a gas tax vacation, as they would call it, I guess, with the 25-cent gas tax. Now, again, to me, get rid of the gross receipts tax, which is the hidden tax that's still going to be charged to every gallon of gas as we take it from the terminal. But again, this is what I would call, again, and everyone's going to say, oh, well, Democrats and Republicans all signed off on this. Well, yeah, because listen, for Republicans, we look at it as it's more money back in the pockets of the people, which is always a good thing. Democrats see this. Now, listen, Democrats love the gas tax. They love large amounts of gas taxes. But what's going on right now is that liberals are catching crap for high gas prices. So right now, they have no choice but to join Republicans and say, all right, we're going to cut the gas tax here. We're going to cut it. We're going to give them a vacation for 3 months. But for me, the big question is, if you really, really want to help the entire economy, why didn't we do anything for diesel? Why didn't we do anything for diesel? There is more diesel consumption in this state than gas consumption in this state. By far. Because diesel is used to run basically everything from industrial to commercial to even everyday people's cars. But yet, diesel and the 44.6 cents, was never touched. Was never touched. This is why I call it posturing. This is what politicians do. This is what politicians do in an election year. So it's very sad that this is all they did. Now, granted, I'll take it because it's something. At least it's 25 cents more per gallon that people are saving in their pocket. And I think when they came out with the numbers, it's like $50 for the 3 months on average. But if you want to see like prices come down on other things, the diesel, where a lot of these tractor trailers are using, that are getting your stuff back and forth and getting it to the stores, that probably would have a much bigger impact on people's everyday lives. That would have had a much bigger effect on people's lives. But just so you know, so from April 1st to January to June 30th, no 25-cent gas tax. I don't want to say no gas taxes because they're still making their 8.83% on every gallon. So, just so you know. But you're going to save 25 cents. So you'll start seeing that probably end of the first week of April. You'll probably start seeing that. As far as you're watching the NCAA women's game other than watching this, come on, Dave. I'm insulted. Gosh. Okay, so Daffodil Festival. So the city council approved the Daffodil Festival funds. So yay, we're going to see the books of the Daffodil Festival. I'm extremely excited about that. That is $284,300. That is well spent. thank you, City Council. I am happy to pay that one. And I look forward to seeing that third-party auditor looking at those books to make sure that money is being spent correctly. Obviously, we talked about it last week. I'm just going to rip through some of these. Popeyes finally opened. Yeah, well, we'll see which books they have. Popeyes finally opened. I've been there like 3 or 4 times already. I got to admit. I absolutely love the place. Even though I will say when I first went, they did screw up my order like 3 different ways. So I kind of felt at home because I am Wallingford. They screw up my order every time. So I kind of felt at home when they did screw it up. But you know what? I'll give it to them. They were new people there. They were just learning. So I am not going to hold a grudge against them. I did go back the next day. And it was perfect. And I went back 2 days after that. And it was perfect again. And yeah, I went back again. So I love it. Popeyes is open. I absolutely love that place. I look forward to it again. So a couple of quick little things. Obviously, we're gonna be doing another show. So obviously, everyone knows I am running. We mentioned it last week that I am running for the 83rd for the state. Had a nice long conversation with the SEEC the last couple of days concerning this show and the rules and regulations for me doing this show. So and the ruling was that since it's not being monetized at all, and I pay for all this myself, which I love doing. It's not only just a hobby of mine, it's a passion of mine to be here every week to do this. And I do miss it when I'm not here. And I do feel bad when I'm not here. But since it's not monetized, there are no issues with me doing anything I want to do on the show and without saying anything that I want on the show, which was a relief because I didn't want to have to worry about, what can I say? What can I say? Because anyone knows I'm going to say whatever the hell is on my mind. So we'll continue to do the show. There's going to be no interruptions. There's going to be no speed bumps. There's going to be no issues going forward, which I was very happy to hear. Like I said, just as long as it wasn't monetized, we were good to go. And I was using my own equipment, which was good to go. When we start doing a Wednesday show, which I just kind of let the cat out of the bag. When we start doing a Wednesday show, I'll do a campaign Wednesday show. So I'll do a campaign show every Wednesday, which will not be on the Straight Talk page. It will be on the campaign page. It will not be on any of this other stuff. So it will be all on the campaign side. That'll change a little bit, and I'll have to charge back, obviously, all the equipment that I use here so that it all brings up as an in-kind contribution. So since I'm going to be doing it on my campaign stuff and it is all my own equipment, I do have to do it as an in-kind contribution to the campaign. So we're going to actually separate everything. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a little different. So it'll be a little different format. And obviously, like I said, all the channels will be different. It won't be on the Straight Talk YouTube page. It will be on my personal YouTube page. And it will be on my Vollano 2022 page. So you'll be able to find the show on Wednesday nights there. And we'll talk about strictly probably just most state stuff going on. So we'll try to do one every week. We're going to start it maybe every other week, and we'll go from there. But just so for those, because I know I got a lot of emails about it, if anyone remembers back in the day, Jerry Christopher, who used to do a show on 960 WELI, he was thinking about running for office. He ran into these things too. But we just wanted to make sure that we were going to be on the up and up on everything. So I did speak with them at length between our campaign officer up in Hartford and the attorneys up there. And that is what we came up with. So we will do the show with no interruptions, and we can talk about whatever we want on the show, just as long as it's not monetized. So, which it will never be, because when you start monetizing it, that means you have advertisers. That means you have people that are looking out for you. So, so we will continue to do it as we normally do. So, very awesome. And then, like I said, we'll do our Wednesday show, which would be strictly for the campaign stuff. We'll start that in a couple weeks. So we look forward to that. And like I said, that stuff will be charged. It will be donated as an in-kind contribution from myself to the campaign, since it is all my equipment here that I have, and nobody else owns it. So that is for everyone that was asking the last week. There you go. now you have an answer to that. But as always, we didn't get to some of the stuff that I wanted to get to. We'll tackle it next week. I want to talk about Cook Ave and what they're looking to do there with knocking those buildings down after the fire. We'll talk about that next week, and we'll talk about so much more. But we still haven't gotten to stuff that I've had in a stack of stuff for like the last 3 weeks. But again, we're only limited to so much time. And how much I would love to sit there and do an hour and a half, 2 hour show. To keep your attention, an hour I think is sufficient. And if we need to, we could do another show on Thursday, but we'll see what happens. We have assessment appeals coming up. They're going to be starting April 11th. Those are going to be starting, so you should start getting your letters in pretty soon. We'll have the dates wrapped up on next Thursday. We'll solidify those time slots and those dates of it. It's going to be very busy. So if you are doing an assessment appeal, please, please, please keep an eye out in the mail for your sheet and make sure you're there. We're going to be on a time crunch. We got over 960 of them to do. So, and that's not even including the nonprofit stuff, which again is going to be an absolute disaster. You know what? And I got to bring it up. We're going to have to sit here for a couple more minutes. I apologize. The nonprofit thing is going to be a huge issue. And if anybody was there, and there's not many times, listen, when me and Rhodey are on the same page and echoing the same thing, you know something's messed up in this city. When me and Mike Rhodey are both saying, hey, let's tackle this nonprofit issue right now. Because if we go ahead and tax these nonprofits, and then some judge down the road, sometime this year or next year, goes, well, no, they have tax exempt status. We have to pay all that money back. And if you already budget, let's say $5 million. Let's say, just to use a number, $5 million. That's what we're going to collect extra from all these nonprofits. Now, I know most people are going to say, that's high. Okay, whatever. But if we budget that $5 million in, and then we have to pay that $5 million back, guess who gets stuck with that bill? The taxpayers do. The taxpayers do. For me, what I would like to see happen is if you are going to look to go that route, and which is why I asked both the finance director and the tax assessor, how much difference from last year to this year are the nonprofits paying? Now, you take that number, and let's say it's $5 million. That $5 million should not be included in the grand list for this budget, just due to the fact that there is a very, very good chance that the state legislature is going to take care of this and going to leave their tax exempt status active. Take that $5 million that they're paying and put it into the rainy day fund. And create your new city budget without that money present. And then you do this. Two things will happen. One, that money will collect interest in our rainy day fund. And if the courts agree with us that they are to pay that, that's $5 million that we could use towards the next budget. Now, if the court says, well, no, you have to get that money back, well, great. That money's there collecting the interest already. You pay that back. We keep the interest. And the taxpayer's not hurt because we took proactive steps to anticipate that happening. So that would be a prudent way to move forward. And I hope that those on the city council push for that option. Because you, as a city council, are going to put the taxpayer in a very dangerous spot if that money has to be returned. Especially if you go forward with all these personnel upgrades and additions, with all these other things going on. Excuse me. You could put the taxpayer in a very, very bad position. I love Mondays. Actually, I love every day, because every day is a day to make money for me. So I love every day, except for rainy days, because I don't want to be out there in the rain. But I will be. So again, I'm hoping that and listen, some may take advantage. But I just want to make sure that I think the goal of the city council right now should be to shield. They should be there to shield the taxpayer right now. And shield the city from issues. And I think that's the best way to go about it. I think take that money that you know you might have to pay back, put it into the rainy day fund, and do not include it in the budget. Like I said, if best case scenario, Melinda's right, we win that court decision and we get to keep the money, we could use it towards, lowering the mill rate next year again. So I just think that's a way to shield the people of the city. And if those on the finance committee, that should be the way they should be looking to move forward with this. Now, whether or not they will or not is something to be seen. So we'll see what happens with that. But I will not keep you guys that much longer. I thank you guys, as always, for being on the show. As always, like I said, I absolutely love being here, and I love doing what I do, and it will continue on throughout the summer. So, again, I look forward to many more shows. And if there's topics you guys want to talk about, always feel free to keep emailing me. Even after the show ends, just email me and we'll look. And I'll text you right after the show, Roberto. So until then, guys, as always, I love you guys. God bless you. Of course, God bless this amazing city of ours, because we do have an amazing city. We have an amazing city with amazing people in it. And reading those comments on the thread, I know there's people out there. We just need to, again, in our circle of influence, we need to spread that. We need to spread that love and that appreciation for what we do have here in the city, and try to fight back against these crazies that are sitting there downplaying our city and telling us, our people, that we have a problem in this city. We have no problem. Our problem in this city is them, not us. So until then, guys, I love you. God bless you. God bless the city, and God bless this great country of ours. Love yous. See you guys next week.
Next year.
So there's no way that we're gonna let some Gestapo come in here to harm our people, right? We just pray for peace with great opportunities, prepare for the worst.
Co-founder.
Never burst to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise. could be making